at the tribunal as PDP fault move. I'll be hanging out with Mojit Jamiu and Emeka Madunago. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Protests have become common features in contemporary societies when citizens communicate their discontent with government policies, actions, and inactions. One of such protests against unfulfilled promises by the government is the ongoing strike by members of the Academic Staff Union of University ASUU, which has lingered for nearly 6 months with no resolution in sight. But the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities has appealed to the federal government to resolve issues with ASUU immediately. The chairman of the committee, Professor Samuel Edumie-Kumo, said government insistence that it does not have money to fund the universities is disheartening, since demands by ASUU are not for the union alone. Mujid, the fact that we're getting behind the figures is that Nigeria is broke officially. And governments keep saying that, look, they cannot unilaterally raise money for ASUU. Even the Minister of State for Labour, Professor to buttress this, that, look, this could be counterproductive. But the Committee of Vice Chancellors coming together now saying that, look, government should do something. That means Committee of Vice Chancellors, they are involved directly in the management of these universities. So they should know what they are saying to put this thing. I expected them to say, oh, ASUU, please, we that were involved in the management of this university, we know that governments, we know that they're broke. I don't know, what do you read between the lines?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the university system have been shut down for the past 5 months, since February, to be precise. And I don't expect Keyamo to come on national television and talk about our government being broke. If you can't finance education, so why are you in government? Just last week or 2 weeks ago, although the approval was given since March, the federal government bought vehicles worth 1.4 billion naira for Nigeria Republic. I mean, if that is not scandalous enough, we can't have Festus Keyamo, a minister, throwing it in the face of it's like telling ASUU that you guys can go to hell, we are broke, we don't have money. But then people see on a daily basis where some of these monies are being channeled to, you know. And I still keep saying that the excuse on the subsidy where the federal government is spending on petroleum products, I mean, that has been the excuse now. And that's why we are not saving, that's why we are not doing anything, that's why we are borrowing to pay salaries. We can't continue to give these excuses. And I think it's only the Education Minister, Adamu, that has been a bit reasonable in terms of the negotiation with ASUU. You see, the ASUU team didn't even want to see the Labour Minister, Dr. Chris Ngige. And I think when people get to the other side, it's like they suddenly forget where they were coming from. It's the same university system that produced all this. Now, what this ASUU strike has done now, WAEC released results of the May-June GCE yesterday. Now we have a backlog of 2 sessions. Most schools are even yet to resume for the last session. Now, this new result that was released yesterday, what is going to happen now is that it's going to increase the competition, because like the chairman of the Vice Chancellor's Forum, Professor Samuel Edumie-Kumo, said the academic system is already disrupted. I don't know where they're going to start from. You have a kid running a 4-year course in any Nigerian university now, he will be lucky to graduate in 6 years. Not because the kid is not brilliant, but because there has been so many disruptions to the academic system. So that's why people are gravitating towards putting their words in private universities, which is not even it's no longer affordable. We know how much they're charging in those schools. So I think the federal government should allow reason to prevail. The president, who is the father of the nation, quote and unquote, gave a 2-week ultimatum to the education minister. That 2 weeks had lapsed, and still no hope in sight. I think elders in this country should talk to the federal government to come to terms and meet ASUU midway so that we can resolve this thing once and for all and we get these schools reopened. I mean, enough damage has been done already in terms of disruptions to the academic system. And to make matters worse, AY, I think we need to reiterate the point that it is wrong for the federal government to stop the salaries of these lecturers just because they are agitating for it. It is very wrong. You don't use the tool of hunger to subdue lecturers from asking for, demanding for their rights when they know that those in the National Assembly will know the huge sums of money they are cutting away on a monthly basis.
No work, no pay policy. The
Trade Dispute Act. Well, I totally align with all that MJ has said. You know, I think the federal government is in trying to play a cautious role, is also shooting itself in the leg. One, Professor Skiamo is not a member of the negotiating team. The Professor Nimi Briggs panel, Professor Nimi Briggs, the Pro-Chancellor of Ekweme University in Boy State, you know, is the head of the team. So where did Skiamo get that information? He only extracted a portion of the report, which recommended some measures of increment in the salaries of lecturers, and which was, you know, said to have come to about 560 billion naira. Just a portion. The lecturers are also talking about revitalizing the university system. They are talking about end allowances. They are talking about promotion areas. They are talking about IPPIS. And they are also talking about giving the tertiary education system the attention it deserves.
Yeah.
Now, the federal government understands from the pronouncements of some functionaries on this strike, understands the fact that, well, the university system, it cannot continue to fully, wholly, or largely fund the university system, which is to the point that, okay, there are certain tuition fees may need to be introduced.
Yeah.
And then certain charges. Understand, there was a write-up by Professor Itope Ogunbodede, he was the former VC of OUIFE. You know, he was talking about a charge that was a fee that was introduced, and people railed against it. The National Assembly told the university to refund the money. And so government knows that. He was even saying that there's a fee, you know, of 90 naira or so in that university. Of course, we know in the reality of today.
Yeah, that's for bed space.
Yes.
How can we be paying 90 naira for bed space?
That in today's reality, you cannot sustain that. Why can't the government just come out and speak the truth? If you cannot sustain it, let the National Assembly maybe hold a public hearing, invite all and sundry, including students, and say, look, trash out the issues. First of all, look at. If you think the way out is to charge economically appropriate fees, then let all the stakeholders deal with it. Let them trash it out. You will reach an understanding. But just pretending as if all that ASUU is asking for is about money increment. No. That was what I found.
Because, Majid, the bottom line is that, you know, there's this spirit of aluta that anytime you are saying that, look, the federal government cannot fund these universities again, that is not realistic, that not everything should be as cheap as this. Maybe primary, secondary education, but not all tertiary education should be funded by the federal government because they simply don't have the money. And now how they're going to work towards university autonomy. What are those things that can be, that can be built? Like, I'm sure if you go and check the tuition fee for University of Lagos now, I don't think University of Lagos will be charging as much as 100,000.
Are universities charging?
That's what I'm saying. That
federal universities.
Yeah, I think it's 13,000. It's about 13,000.
So, Mujib, let's be real today.
No, you see,
2022. How can you be charging 13,000?
Yes. Now,
for what?
That's the point I'm trying to make here. All the schools in Lagos, all the universities in Lagos, owned by the Lagos state government, are in session because they are charging appropriate fees.
What do you mean by appropriate?
As in
tune with economic realities.
Okay, now.
Are you talking about 200,000?
No, see.
100 and something?
AY. I know that I doubt if there's any private university in Nigeria today where you pay less than 1 million. That is for tuition alone, not accommodation. LASU, I'm giving examples now here. LASU runs off campus. So those students who are having accommodation,
yes, how much would they be paying
are they paying for accommodation? Now, I graduated in 1990 from University of Ilorin.
Old man.
Yes, I'm an old man.
But not yet an elder statesman.
Now, my accommodation was 45 naira. Today, that was 1990. 22, how many years later now? Is it 22 or 32 years later? 32 years later, accommodation is 90 naira. Is that
the same University of Ilorin?
Everywhere, all federal universities.
Yes, 90
naira. Best place. It is
okay,
not
in
realistic.
Now, if you are talking about accommodation, if you are saying 90 naira within that, now if you go to Abule Oja will be telling you to go and bring 2 million.
Let us even. You need a 3-bedroom flat and maybe 3 students want to pay. How much will each of them pay? Or even there are some hostels that are even built by PPP private arrangements inside Unilag. How much are they paying for accommodation there? You see Moremi, Makarma Bida, and the 2,000 capacity hostel, the new hall, because that's where, when I did my master's, I stayed there. So now, you see students rushing towards the hostels facilities owned by government, while the private-owned hostels that are running on private partnership are charging like 1,000% over, and you see students also staying there. So rather than for Keyamu to tell us that government cannot fund education, even NANS should be called, the leadership of the National Association of Nigerian Students should be called and let them sit down with students and the lecturers and representatives of the federal government. That is no longer realistic for students to be paying 19 naira best place in 2022. It is not practical.
All right, we have to move. Now, moving on now. It appears that the recent killing of a bandit leader in Katsina State during a raid by the Air Force is yet to stem the tide of banditry in the states. Residents of Sabongida Federal Teaching Hospital, Katsina staff's quarters and others scampered for safety when bandits stormed the area in broad daylight on Tuesday. According to some residents, the bandits were chasing some headers when they stormed the Sabongida quarters, which caused panic in the town. Killing the bandit leader, that does not mean that you would have succeeded, in killing these boys. We're talking about the recruitment drive that they have. If Nigeria unemployment rate is put at 33-point-something%, and the number of
that's a conservative
in the last 2 years
estimate.
ago, yes, and the level of poverty in the land and everything. So to just recruit these guys that want to make money through kidnapping and banditry is going to be the easiest thing.
Yeah, you see, for so many years we have understated and underestimated the depth of rural poverty. Poverty in the, in the semi-urban and rural areas. Now it is coming to stare us in the face. You see a lot of people, if you look at trucks, look at trailers, number of people that they bring into Lagos, Ibadan, and other places. There are so many. These people have nothing to do. A lot of people just moving about. Look at what the battle Lagos government is having with Okada riders. A lot of people moving about everywhere, nothing to do. Now, those are the ones who even say, okay, let's go elsewhere and look for something to do. There are those who say, well, let's become bandits. It's only once that one dies. So if, they die in the course of it, so be it. But at least let them get something doing. So the point is that the bandit leaders are only taking advantage of the vacuum that had existed. Poverty, lack of jobs, and even lack of development. Then the unrestrained access through our borders. It's a major problem. People can just cross the borders anyhow. I know, yes, there is the protocol, ECOWAS protocol on free movement. But again, nations also try to document people who come into their territories. But how come some of these people move in from other countries, especially from Niger, where we know they are having a major crisis? Insurgency is still a problem in Niger. They just come into Nigeria, they can move back and run back and forth. What is the customs doing? You see the customs on the roads, chasing people carrying rice and Tokumbo vehicles. But people are moving across our borders with
immigration.
Immigration is about human beings, but the importation of illicit arms falls under customs. Then all you just hear about is the military. What about the other agencies, the immigration, the customs? What are they really doing? Because the flow of illicit arms is a major problem in West Africa, and Nigeria is suffering from it. So arms are so readily available. It's so easy to procure arms, to procure bullets. Now, the government has to really do something. It has to really do something. Apart from just pounding them, you have to make that business of kidnapping. Government has to find a way to deal with it. Because, like I said the other time, it's not just these bandits and all that. You also find in many areas locals are even getting involved in this criminal enterprise. Because people, they say, so people can bring 100 million, people can bring 50 million, people can bring this. Look at the victims of the train kidnap. Talking about the first man dropped 200 million, the others 100 million. Now somebody told me that, that certain parts of the north are becoming desolate. People are selling their houses and fleeing to other places, like Kaduna. What does that? You will see the effect of such things will be felt in years to come. And people's livelihoods are being destroyed. People are taking loans to pay for these ransoms. That means you are just destroying the livelihoods of people. It's unfortunate.
MJ.
No, there is a correlation between the level of development, the fertility rate in the northern part of the country, and the rate of banditry compared to what we have in the southern part of the country. Just last week, the Lagos State government sponsored a workshop organized by the Nigerian Guild of Editors, and there were startling revelations about how the fertility rates in the northern part of the country, where you have average birth rate of one woman in first marriage having about an average of 7 children in the north, compared to an average of 1.6 to 1.2 in the southern part of the country. Now, relate that to the number of uneducated people, unemployed people, underemployed people, and also number of youths out of school. Uneducated, unemployed, underemployed, then number out of school. The rate is also higher in the northern part of the country compared to the southern part of the country. Now, when you juxtapose these two together, you see that banditry is high in that place because, like they always say, the devil finds work for idle hands. Yes. So, the rate of childbearing is higher. An average woman in the north gets married at the age of probably 13 or thereabout. So before 30, he already has 7. You can have one man having 4 wives, each of them having like
Okay.
7.
MG, let me quickly pick this call from Carol in Nasarawa State. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, Mr. Ayo, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, Mr. Ayo, well done, sir. You're doing a great job. And Mr. Amechi and Mobolaji, you know, am I correct?
Emeka.
Yes, well done,
Emeka and Mojid.
Yes,
Just go on.
Yes, Mojid. Yes, my name is Tekin Behundu. I'm calling all the way from Karoka Government, Nasarawa State.
Okay, go ahead.
I
please.
think we're enjoying peace here. Yes, the most peaceful state now, you know, in Nigeria. We're enjoying here. Yes, you know, Mr. Emeka was talking about, you know, proliferation of, you know, arms, you know, and, you know, in West Africa here, sir. In West Africa, you know, we have Ghana, we have Nigeria, Cameroon, and, you know, other countries. But what has Nigeria done wrong that others have not done? Because this kind of thing is not happening in Ghana, it's not happening in Cameroon, it's not happening, in Benin Republic. Are we the only country, you know, in West Africa? Because the issue now is too much, sir. And again, sir, you see, those bandits, you know, each time that we saw them on television, on your television, sir, they don't look like people that are collecting millions, sir. They look so hungry. They look so unkept. Where are the millions that are collecting? Are they giving account to someone? And concerning ASUU, it's unfortunate.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because
there's a nexus. Although, let MJ continue.
Yeah, so like I was saying, you can see the connection. So that's why it's becoming increasingly difficult for our security agencies to cut short these nefarious activities of these bandits.
Yes.
Now, you have more people, then they
We are under-policed.
Under-policed, yes.
Just we
So,
don't have enough more power in terms of military capability.
Our security agencies, it's not as if they are not working, but they are thinned out. They have been stretched to the limit. And you need to know...
Compared to their ratio compared to our population.
To our population. And look at the BBC interview. More than 30,000 bandits in Zamfara alone, fully armed. Imagine 1,000 guys on Okada.
33.
Yeah, 33 of them on Okada. So it is a serious problem that requires serious solution. But then gradually, that's why I am afraid that the crisis in our educational sector will be felt in 5-10 years' time, not just now.
To have
because it will aggravate the already deepening economic, socio-political crisis that we are having now, especially given the number of pupils that are out of school and the university system. There's a capacity of students they can take. Now we have 2 main sessions. Those who graduated last year are waiting to resume, while those who does graduate now are also going to join those.
And imagine the number of batches we'll be having for NYC.
That is it. So it is a very serious problem.
So
that I think
when
government
came out with the figure of 90 million, 95 million of the number of registered voters, you know, when we used to postulate that, oh, Nigeria will be up to 200 million, I used to think that, no, this cannot be accurate, till INEC came out with that data that, so if you are, before you can register, you are 18 above, Abi? So if you are 18 and above, and we are counting 90 million Nigerians that have been registered to vote. Now, that says something about our population, and if the governor of Zamfara is saying that 30,000 in one state, you can imagine what we have in Niger. You can imagine the one ravaging Katsina right now.
And sleeper cells in other states like Lagos.
Just the number of jobless, unemployed youths that they are conscripting into that.
Yeah, they are not. These people are not just. They are not just Nigerians. So some of these people also from other countries.
Of course,
because Nigeria is. We have over the years told the world that we are the giant of Africa. So many people come from different nations, you know, to Nigeria to look for the proverbial golden fleece.
And they're mostly youths. Look at them.
And yes, a lot of these guys are young boys now, 17, 15, 16, 19. You know, do you see that you hardly see those in their 40s among them now? I mean, people, the thing is that the movement across the borders is part of the problem. How do you contain them? The army goes on the offensive. The Air Force goes on the offensive. These people can retreat across the border, go and hide in Niger Republic, and wait until the momentum dies down. Then they come back. We must find a way to make sure that these porous borders, the movement across, illegal movement across these porous borders is checked. It's a major problem. It's a major problem.
All right, we take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. Still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Never miss a moment. Instant breaking news from all over the globe. Live streaming of your favorite programs delivered directly to you. Watch anytime from anywhere on your mobile or smart devices. Download the TVC News app today. Available on Google Play and Apple Store.
Information is power, information is security, information is knowledge. On Labor Lens, we believe that working people around the world have real questions of their own. They want to know how the world of work operates, what it means to the employer of labor, how policies affect workers in the workplace. On Labor Lens, I ensure we engage effectively the organized labor, organized private sector, and government to get out of them information workers are in need of. I am Sharon Ijason, asking questions that make you get sense of the workplace.
Thank you for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is your favorite news and current affairs program, Journalist Hangout. And we're reaching you live from our headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I have Mujid Jamiu and Emeka Madunagu still in the studio. For it to be truly independent and seen to be so, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, must withstand influence from any quarters. The controversy regarding nomination of some politicians for the 2023 elections is presenting the electoral umpire with such tests. INEC has denied that its doctored and backdated document to accommodate nominations of Senate President Ahmed Lawal and former Niger Delta Affairs Minister, that's Godswill Akpabio, as senatorial candidates for the 2023 elections. The commission is said it is yet to recognize any of the two politicians as a senatorial candidate. Mojid, what is the bone of contention here? Because I thought that naturally the case of the Senate President should be simple. He never partook in that primary, and the person that was said to be the placeholder came out to tell INEC that I am not a placeholder. I participated in a primary, and this is my score.
See, I don't know why this should become an issue of discourse in the first instance. I don't know why it should generate any controversy. Remember, there's this Yoruba adage. Maybe I'll explain to Emeka later. Say, "Usodemi man tora edoniso." You know what that means? You put somebody as a placeholder. If you don't trust that person, the person will totally take over.
Of course.
So, it's not everybody that will be as lucky as the Bauchi governor, who used his SSG as a placeholder. And when he came back after losing out of the presidential primary to Atiku, the SSG in Bauchi just resigned, say, I'm not doing it again, no. And they did another election, and the Bauchi governor got his second-term ticket back. Unlike Lawan, the person is used as stakeholder, became what Yoruba also call Akintola.
Akuda Taku.
Taku. Say, we die here. And in that situation, unless or except the guy says he's resigning, Lawan cannot. And see, we are forgetting easily that for Lawan and Akpabio, the INEC, the new Electoral Act is very clear.
Yes, Section 115.
And that's why Peter Obi is very clever. You know, a signified interest in the PDP to run alongside Atiku and others, but he withdrew because now what the new Electoral Act as amended says is the moment you take part in a primary in a particular election, you cannot go to another party and
in another capacity.
In another capacity.
Or the same capacity.
Or the same capacity. So I don't know whether these people cannot read English or they feel they are too big for the law that was made by themselves, which they passed for all of us.
Or they are used to the status quo.
You see, you cannot eat your cake and have it. Yeah. This is the same Lawan that wanted to emerge as a consensus candidate and ended up coming 4th or 5th in the primary. So people should understand that we should learn how to get things right. We should support INEC. INEC started with the Ondo election. Now you can see results as they are coming. I mean, you don't need
it. Of the beavers.
It is difficult to rig elections now. If you can't win at the polling unit, although they still have one or two things to work on, because some people are still bypassing the beavers, as we might soon get to know. And it's not perfect yet, but we should allow them to be truly independent.
But it's also said in that electoral act that if you bypass the beavers, that election should be nullified.
Nullified, yes. And that is what I'm saying. INEC too, if you are insisting that Lawan and Akpabio will not be on the ballot, then your electoral process to your process of announcing results, if you know that at a particular polling unit, beavers accredits 0, then we should not have a result in that polling unit.
Yes. Or you should have a rerun.
Or you should have a rerun. So, in this particular case, Lawan and Akpabio, they should become party members and look for appointed positions. That is, if they are not elected, that is, if their party
wins,
the APC wins at the national.
Yeah, of course. The INEC has said Machina has gone to court, so that it hasn't done anything. It looked at the story that it backdated its documents and said no. Tried to explain the administrative issue that had to do with the date alluded to. But I think INEC should also be careful so that it doesn't fall into the Rocha Sokorocha case, where it was forced. You know, it had its back against the wall and it couldn't do anything, but it couldn't do other than just to allow him to become a senator. INEC should be wary of such a thing. Yeah. And then INEC coming out to say that no contestant had violated Section 115D. I mean, I think it's only trying to be clever by half, because if you help politicians to get away with such infractions, what you end up doing is that they will just, they will devise more ways of circumventing the law.
It will serve as deterrent. Yes. There
should be at least 1 or 2 people you use as an example. Don't come and tell us that people didn't run. Because what they are trying to now say, the scenario that might come up is this: okay, somebody runs for office here, and he doesn't pick this seat. And then another person, maybe had arranged with somebody else. He didn't pick the other form. Yeah. He had arranged with somebody else who emerged. At the end of the day, he doesn't get the ticket here. And then the party, like what happened in Ebonyi, the party just comes and says, okay, we want to replace the candidate. All right, you, whom we think, will be a better choice, come and take it. But the Electoral Act says it cannot happen.
Because there's a deadline for primaries.
It should not happen. Yeah. So you cannot try to reinvent the wheel. You can only make it better. But even at that, don't try to circumvent the law, which is what Nigerian politicians have failed to realize, that the law remains the law. But, well, INEC itself should also understand the law. If the entire National Assembly could not see how they shot themselves in the foot by denying themselves of the opportunity to be delegates at the primaries, then of course INEC should up the ante and make sure that it doesn't fall into that. INEC should show that it has a team of researchers that are constantly going through the fine prints of the laws so that it doesn't get itself into the Rocha Sokorocha.
From what you said now, from what you've seen, the election, we've been monitoring the off-season election, and we can say boldly that the INEC, that name, the Independent National Electoral Commission, that they are really acting to, that name, that, most of they're cleaning up their processes. It used to be chaotic during the time of Professor Morris. Wow. It used to be chaotic. It lacked credibility. And right now, from the time of Atahiru Jega down to Professor Mahmoud down, we can see the efforts. Now people can say, look, our votes will count.
From the days of OV whiskey. You remember?
FEDECO, yes.
FEDECO.
Federal Electoral Commission, yeah.
See, my dad told me a story. He said he was a coalition officer. They concluded an election in a particular polling unit. Then they don't count elections at a polling unit. So he was taking the ballot box. Normally they take the ballot box to the local government center, in this case now Ekiti. Now, he said before they moved from the polling unit, which is just like a distance of 10 minutes, from the polling unit to the local government collation center, he was already hearing the results of his polling unit on radio.
That's
in way back 1979, I think.
So today.
But today, now look at the Ekiti election and Osun election. The elections start closing from 2:30. By
4, 5.
By 3 o'clock you start hearing some results.
Yeah.
And
go to the INEC portal.
At the INEC portal, you will see the way it is progressing. Just like the US election, you will know that in Osun State, for example, is 20%.
Okay, I have Sophia. Sophia, let me quickly repeat this call. Sophia is calling us from Okene, that's in Kogi State. Thank you, Sophia.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, please, Mr. Jamiu, it's enough. Nobody is buying credit for me. It's enough, Mr. Jamiu. Good evening. Please, do push you and endeavor to always pick our call. We are using our money to buy credit.
Sorry about that, Sophia.
Thank you, Mr. Ayo. You see, I blame their constituency. I blame their constituency.
Go ahead, Sophia.
I blame their constituency.
Okay.
Lawan has been there since 1999. And his constituency keeps on pushing him there. So he's not the only candidate in that constituency. He should go and rest. He should go and rest. Akpabio too should go and rest. From governor 8 years to minister, now to Senate. They are just playing with our intelligence. Please.
Thank you, Sophia.
Sophia, in America and the UK that we want to emulate, the longer, the better. So,
if you go and look at the ranking House members now,
so let us get them right. If
people
the processes
like Honorable
are right,
Femi Gbajabiamila, the speaker there that has been there since 2003 and is coming back again. So you can see the dexterity.
But what we are saying here is the process, the procedure must be right, must be correct.
Yes.
If the constituents decide to elect him through a delegate system,
as many times as
possible,
yes, they can go.
The older the wine, the better.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
Winston Churchill spent
Yes.
so many years as.
There's nothing we should get
Because
that
of the
right. There's
rules,
nothing.
what it takes, the rules of the house, the things you are going to learn, it takes time.
These people, yeah,
it's
you
not something
become
that you can just be having
institution.
turnover.
And that's
having
why,
that kind of turnover is
and
not
that's why
even good for us.
in America, they have a two-year succession
Media,
so that all of them will
elections,
not go at the same time. So some will come in. It's a 4-year term.
Yeah.
Some will come in mid-term.
There's going to be a midterm election by November now.
I think we need to get that straight.
All right, and finally, the July 16 governorship election in Osun State has been contested and won, but the battle over the poll is far from over. Governor Gboyega Oyetola and the candidates of the All Progressive Congress, APC, in the election has submitted a 1,250-page petition challenging the results. Governor Oyetola is contesting the results in 749 polling units out of 3,763 on the grounds of overvoting and infractions. Meanwhile, the state chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has faulted the decision by the APC to challenge the outcome at the Election Petition Tribunal, while the APC said it has good case and ready to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. The PDP described the decision as a wasteful voyage and an exercise in futility. Can you take us through this, MJ? We saw the election, and it was safe at the time that the result was announced by the Independent National Electoral Commission that, okay, the People's Democratic Party, they came, they saw, and they conquered. But after that, we've been expecting the governor to congratulate the governor-elect, and as part of their rights, they've gone to the tribunal. Now, what they're saying in the tribunal is a 1,250-page document challenging overvoting and some other infractions.
Whether Governor Gboyega Oyetola congratulates Senator Demola Adeleke or not, that has not invalidated the result of the election. So people should stop begging him to congratulate. It is not choice. It is not.
It's not an imprimatur.
You don't even have to sign the
certificate of return.
The results.
Yes.
It doesn't invalidate the election. So whether I congratulate or not, that is not the issue here. But there are two critical issues. Recall that the PDP has some issues which is at the Supreme Court now.
Yes.
One aspirant, Dr. Mabayemi, has taken a case to go. So I think the PDP should be more bothered about that because it has to do with how their primaries were conducted. But now that Oyetola has gone to court, now it's about 1,250 something pages, but there's an abridged version, which is 670. That's the one I read. I've taken time to look at it. And, I was being cautious to give INEC 100% when we are talking about the electoral.
Because when you were talking about overvoting, I was not looking at how would overvoting happen when the beavers is there to accredit the number of people
normally
at the polling units.
Yes, normally, I was on ground in Osun. And in the North and South, for example, elections were still going on till 9 p.m., which is allowed. INEC allows, if the last person is on the queue,
the last person on the
by
queue
2:30,
voted.
the person must vote.
And logically, is that possible?
Yes.
If the last person on the queue by 2:30.
And another thing that INEC does is
9.
If you have a particular polling unit where you have
so
many voters, the average time of voting per person is between 2 and 5 minutes from accreditation to thumb printing. And so if you look at that, you see that a beavers machine, there's a limit to which it can do within 8 o'clock and 6 p.m., which is that's a 10-hour period. So when you look, that's why INEC will have a polling unit and probably 2 or 4 polling points attached to the same polling unit. That's why in Osun, for example, there are about 3,700 50 polling units, but about 4,000 polling points. So that's why they deployed about 5,000 BVAS machines. So I expect that in those places where people were voting till 9 p.m., INEC, of course, you have the list of all those polling units. You know the number of people voting in those polling units. So you ought to have broken them down. So polling points where you deploy more BVAS machines so that elections could be concluded at least before 6 p.m. That is the permissible time. Now, coming to the 749 polling units, what I've seen is that I hope it is not true. But if it is true, there's going to be a problem with INEC in Osun. And what am I saying? The elections in those polling units they caught my order earlier on because I read a particular point where...
You can't preempt the courts.
No. Of course, but then I'm saying that from what I've seen, what the Electoral Act says is that if BVAS machine says 0 accreditation, and you have some parties recording results for the same polling unit, if it is proven, because as you are having the results in the BVAS machine, also all the parties signed the EC from EC8 in each polling unit. So the two must tally. So, but the BVAS machine is the one INEC will use. So how did INEC upload a 0 accreditation into its portal now with the hard copy reading probably 600 votes per party A? So the moment that is established, I think there'll be a problem with such polling units. And here we are talking about 749 polling units. If that is the case, then there could be a problem with the result which has been declared by INEC.
Emeka, do you think the APC, they're just being bad losers and they should just allow Senator Adeleke to do his first 4 years?
Yeah, well, they've called others bad losers. So, and I think Oyetola has been a bad loser, very bad loser, because he's gone to the tribunal at the same time. He's taking certain decisions which, on the face of it, look like he wants to create problems for his successor. Establishing a university, even in the middle of ASUU strike, establishing a university, doing some other things.
He's still the governor. He's still the governor.
Yes, he is. But
that might be on the pipeline before that might have been.
You're supposed to be winding down. It's just about 3 months. You're supposed to be winding down. Where are you going to? How are you going to establish a university within 3 months? You are going to create problems in the middle of ASUU strike. You're going to create problems for your successor. There are certain things. You see, part of the problems we will have in states, why the minimum wage remains a problem, why we keep having issues of labor problems is that...
Okay, we're looking at the tribunal case now.
Yeah, no, we'll get... No, just permit me to digress a little. Is that you find out outgoing governors recruiting large numbers of people into the civil service, then the successors find it difficult to pay. And the workers say, oh...
Still within Oyetola's right to go to the tribunal?
Yeah, no.
Do you agree with that?
Not stopping. No, of course, I'm just talking...
He has not done anything wrong by going to the tribunal.
Of course, he's a citizen. Justice. He's a citizen. He has a right to, make recourse to the court. He has a right to go to court. But also, in exercising your right, you should consider the larger interest, the interest of the larger society.
How?
You should...
When his people are telling him, when his party members are telling him that everything did not go down well with the election.
Yes, but what we are looking at is this. How has it put the state? The state, the tension remains high. It's also within his right not to contest the result. It's also within his right. Like he expected Adeleke not to have contested the results. So what I'm saying, yes, is within his rights, but he should consider the interests of the larger society. If he decides not to go to court, let Adeleke run the state. They are both Osun indigenes. So it's not as if Adeleke is jumping from the moon. It's just to make sure that the people of Osun State get a good deal. At least let them see, oh, we've worked with this governor, let's work with this governor. And then again, there are issues within the party, within the APC. It's having issues with some eminent personalities in APC. So has he tried to sort those things out? The answer is no. So even while you are fighting at the tribunal, and it happens that your opponent starts calling members of your party to testify against you, how will it look like? I'm not trying to second guess the tribunal, but I think it should not, the lawyers, he should watch the promises his lawyers are giving him about the strength of his case.
And looking at the strength of the case now, Mojit, do you think, yes, with the facts and evidence they have on ground, that the governor would ordinarily have said, look, I'm walking away, or would have looked at the weights of the evidence on ground and say, look, I want to pursue this to a logical conclusion and within the ambit of my rights?
That's why I want to disagree with Emeka a bit. Yeah. Recall that 4 years ago when Oyetola won, Adeleke went to court. He didn't say, okay, for the good people of Osun, let me wait for another 4 years. So now
he exhausted his rights.
Up to the Supreme Court. So let Oyetola too entertain himself. Let him exercise his rights by also challenging the results of it. And see, the beauty of democracy is that now we are seeing a situation where somebody is defeating an incumbent. So, which means INEC is improving, like I said earlier, but they can still get better. But like I said earlier, if it is proven that, of course, there are some polling units where actually the Beavers machine recorded 0, because I read the petition comprehensively, and I saw some of these things in so many areas. Of course, there is no...
No, but Adeleke has not...
Of course, I mean, it's going to file his own defense. It's going to be a battle for the cause, but I'm telling you what the electoral law says.
Yes.
Just like most people don't know, it was at that workshop that I realized that you can go to jail for 12 years if you campaign based on religion.
Yes.
Yes, it is in the new Section 26 of the new Electoral Act.
Yes.
So, for Murik and Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs and even the Christian Association of Nigeria, it is not your business whether a party feels Christian or Muslim.
No, but they are not candidates.
No, I don't want us to deviate from this. Not candidates. I'm just saying that the new Electoral Act.
Oyetola's victory.
Yes.
Adelike's victory.
It is still the new Electoral Act we are talking about here. Yes. And there's a provision in the new Electoral Act that says that if Beavers machine accredits 0, you cannot have a result in that polling unit. It will be cancelled. They will go and test that law in court. Yes. So the judiciary should be warming up because this is a new Electoral Act. And those of us who are covering, who are journalists, we have a lot to learn. Yeah, and also we should get ourselves acquainted with the new Electoral Act because there are a lot of changes. There are a lot of changes, yes, actually, there are a lot of changes, yes.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank you for your contribution. And we see democracy in action in Osun State and let them go to the tribunal. And the good thing about the tribunal now is that I think it's 180 days. Sorry, wait, just 1 minute. Somebody just sent me a message that accommodation in some schools, in some federal universities, could be range between 12,000 and 30,000. Federal universities. But then Professor Akin is saying it is 90. Yes, Professor Akin is saying it is 90 naira. So
yes, in OAU.
In OAU.
Former VC of OAU. Yes.
So I think we should get that right.
Okay. Right, okay. So thank you, Emeka.
Thank you very much.
And MJ, thank you. It's been a while.
Thank you very much.
All right. And that's our offering. Join us tomorrow. Okay. I just gathered that the Chief Press Secretary to Governor Oyetola, that's Ismail, one of our own, Ismail Omekpidon, we want to contribute. Thank you, Ismail.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ismail.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
Ismail, can you just run through what's the merit of this case?
Well, why I'm calling in is just to try to correct the impression being created by my good brother and colleague, Mr. Emeka Madunagu. The university in question was, the process did not start today. We started the process long before now, and it will interest Mr. Emeka and the other viewers to know that even the PDP candidate campaigned with the same university. In fact, he claimed that we were slow in our own process. And I remember the OWA trying to school him on the fact that this process started long ago, and they believe strongly in the commitment of the governor to fulfill the promise. That is one. Two, the election has come and gone, and we thank God that Mr. Governor was able to bring his character and personality to play in that election, and that was why we witnessed a very peaceful atmosphere. However, I haven't realized that we have a very strong ground to challenge the election. I don't think anybody should try to vilify Mr. Governor for choosing a legal means to process to challenge the process in court.
Okay. It's fine. Mr. Mikidon, we don't have this time. We don't have time again. I wish you the best of luck in your quest to exercise your rights,
yes,
which is an extension of your right at the tribunal.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, we'll be here to analyze it, and I'm sure it might get to the Supreme Court level. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11, and join us on Sunday for Journalist Hangout on Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. See you later, and God bless Nigeria.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive